Hey everyone, I'm Boom.
I'm Spice. This is the second episode of Homemade Poetry, our new series where everyone writes an original poem, us and a guest, and we compare them on the podcast. And our guest, once again, is the venerated former rapper, current
Oh,
carpenter of sorts, jack of all trades, um, wandering artist, Bam.
Back and better than ever, guys. Back and better than ever. I am super stoked to show you guys the new poem I've been working on, and look forward to hearing your guys.
I'm excited too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, he's already another poem deep. This guy's
I know, 2 down.
Yeah.
prolific is an understatement.
Next
He
up,
just keeps it moving.
I know. I'm gonna write a poetry book next. I don't know what
Ooh.
to call it.
Ah, that works.
That
That works.
Poetry.
Poetry.
I mean, a collection.
Of poetry?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
poetry
bunch of
book is
different poems,
apt.
add it all up together and put them on paper.
You could, I bought, is it Whale Day? That's the Billy Collins book?
I believe it is.
Yeah, I haven't actually read it myself, but I know a lot of Billy Collins' work. It might be a source of some inspiration for you because he's very playful with his poetry. It breaks the mold of what people expect from poets of his stature in terms of a modern day poet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm looking forward to looking into more poetry. I've really looked into about zero. So like just seeing like what you guys have put down and what I put down, just like the creativity you can get out of it is kind of cool. I really like the no boundaries in it. I really like that about it. You can kind of just really write what you're thinking and write what you feel.
Yeah.
Sounds good and sounds cool.
Boom, how do you feel about the medium?
I like it a lot, and especially with the writing of it, it was pretty interesting to me how, with my last poem, I started with no real inspiration. It's kind of interesting how it develops, how you have ties to what you're saying, whether you know it or not. Like, I didn't mean to be writing about myself, but it just kind of happened. So it's interesting how you can express yourself without even knowing that you're meaning to.
Mm-hmm.
Art acts as a mirror, not only of oneself, but also the culture that surrounds them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see what gets reflected without people realizing it,
Yeah.
even without meaning to.
Mm-hmm.
The certain things about yourself and things that you see around you that get projected into your art.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on that note, who would like to start first? We do like
Three-way rock, paper,
yeah, we could do
scissors.
we could do nose goes or
I do
something.
nose goes.
Oh, was
That was close. You guys were close.
Oh, man.
I'm definitely not first.
all right. We can run back rock paper scissors if you'd
All
like.
right, let's go.
All right, Bam, you're the
Let's
ref.
see.
Rock paper scissors 1 2 3. Rock
Oh,
paper
we're
scissors 1 2 3.
Oh,
Rock
my goodness.
paper scissors 1 2 3. Rock
Oh,
paper
my.
scissors 1 2 3.
Oh,
Ooh,
now there's
man.
cold scissors from Devin back to back.
Oh
Scissors
man,
on it.
I'm on the ball
Goodness.
today. What can I say? So this is one of the first poems I've ever written,
Okay.
and it's entitled Bliss. Carl Sagan said, "The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be." I'm inclined to believe him, but I fantasize of a moment where time ceases, the world falls beneath us, and nothing stands between you and I. And that's it.
I dig that. So, how you said that was your first one? How long ago was that?
Like 4 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Um,
Man. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoy astronomy
Mhm.
quite a bit. It's one of my greater passions. If only I was good at math or or astronomy, and then I'd be a great physicist. But instead, I read books on astronomy every once in a while.
Heck yeah, man. I dig that.
Um, yeah, I like the idea of. This is actually before I'd ever been in like an actual serious relationship,
Mhm.
but I like the tension of space between people, and the idea of it falling into nothing and being left with just two people. It's like there's a song by Death Cab for Cutie. Man, Cutie. Death Cab for Cutie. That's what I meant to say. Called I Will Follow You Into the Dark, where it's essentially a guy rejecting the afterlife in favor of further adventures with his lover. And
I've heard that song.
Yeah. Have you heard it?
No, I don't think I have.
Oh man,
Yeah,
Boom and Spice song recommendations.
Yeah.
It's a good song. It's kind of spooky, but in an endearing way, and that's a bit of the vibe I was going for.
Right.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Like kind of thinking about it, I feel like with a lot of relationships, I mean, this is just one take here, but things going on can cloud what's happening between two people, and with you talking about everything falling away and leaving two, I think that's at least in my experience, ripping away the outside influence and getting to what actually the two people are feeling has been beneficial in my life.
So you're thinking of space in the abstract,
Yeah.
as opposed to literal space.
Instead of actual space.
That's an interesting way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a conclusion you had to come to over time, or was that an initial thing that you worked on?
It was something that happened over time through struggling me in a relationship I'm in. Still, we were having this trouble where there was uncertainty because I was about to leave for a while. So I guess it does kind of play into the other space.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, there was a lot of uncertainty about what was going on because of outside influences. And it took us recentering ourselves on us and what we feel between each other when it's just us in, an absent space. And focusing on that, I think, is what kind of got us through it.
So, literal space begot figurative space, in a sense, or the impending, the impending need for space begot emotional space. And the way you guys got closer was how did you guys end up breaking down those barriers between you guys emotionally?
Yeah, it ended up just being a conversation after a long day of being upset about we're both worried, we're both doubtful. We just had to come together, talk to each other about what we're feeling is real, and space between us and things happening around us shouldn't influence it as much as we're letting it.
You're trying to put it into a vacuum a bit.
Yeah.
And do you think if she heard that poem, she'd think the same thing, or do you think that she might come to a different conclusion?
That'd be interesting. I wonder if she would. Maybe not. I feel like I was kind of grasping a little bit, but
Perhaps.
I guess that's just what happens.
That's just poetry. That's just how it is.
That is the nature of it.
Exactly, the nature of the beast. Bam. Do you have any comments before we move on to yours?
No, I think I'm ready to go, man. I think I'm ready to show you guys what I've been working on.
Oh, fantastic.
All right. Okay, so this one is titled Sad Signs. How many times will I go down this road? This road I know is oh so cold. I've been many times, but every time I see those signs, stop and go, but yet I go on down this road.
I think there's two things you need to let go of the next time you write a poem, or
Okay.
try to at least.
Okay.
One is the commitment to rhyme scheme.
Okay.
Because it seems like...
Yeah, that one, now saying it all the way through like that, it did seem really rhymey in the face.
And the thing is, here's another little bit of Boom and Spice book advice. When reading a poem, one of the first things that I look at is to rhyme scheme in terms of putting emphasis on important places within the poem. Things
Okay.
that ought to be focused in on.
Okay. Okay.
And if you put them in your poem arbitrarily, it could send red herrings. Where I think that there's meaning here, but really it's just the author trying to keep the flow of the poem going.
Yeah.
And that's where breaking up rhyme scheme could be effective, where you take what was rhyming and suddenly it's not. That also creates emphasis.
Yeah, we talked about that on one of the Poetry Potluck episodes. I think it was one of us brought, and the rhyme scheme broke down, and you mentioned that that's often done on purpose because they want you to take a closer look at what they're saying.
So
right
I see what
there.
you're saying. So like not have a lot of rhymes, but be rhyming, and it'll stand out more. Like what doesn't rhyme will stand out more if the rest.
I
is
think
rhyme.
what he's saying is you
You know what
don't,
I'm saying?
yeah, you don't have to focus so much on keeping your scheme if it's going to keep you from getting your meaning
Good
across.
point
Like
across,
if you're
okay.
gonna have to use filler words that don't mean as much,
Right. Yeah. Because there was
to
like
keep your scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, there was just
Yeah.
some things I was trying to keep it tied with like the road theme. Was like I was trying like there was a road theme and it was like you see these bad signs, but your habit is to go down this road, so you keep on going down the road. But I kept the way I said it was like the stop and go. But here I go. It just sounded. I didn't even really notice it until I really read it there.
I get it.
But
Yeah,
get-
I like
get
that
what
subject matter. I mean, the pieces are there. That could
Absolutely.
be something to revisit. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
we do this
that
again.
One,
You
yeah,
come
that
back
one might
with
be a
something
touch up where I
revised.
bring it back revised a little bit more better.
Exactly. And then one more thing is work on avoiding cliches. Do you know what a cliche is?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do know. Yeah.
Where it acts as a bit of a crutch. Where, like, oh, the symbolism of going down an empty road. Everyone knows about that.
Yeah, you
And
keep-
signs, everyone knows about signs and avoiding them,
Mhm.
moving past them, heeding them. These are all things people do. And it's effective imagery in that sense. However, it feels like almost
Forcing it.
not that, more so it feels like Boom could have written this poem or I could have written this
Oh,
poem.
I see what you said. There's no originality.
Not-
Uniqueness. I know what you.
I'm not trying to be harsh. I just want to hear what you think.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and when you use cliches, it really boils yourself down to what someone
The
else has
cliche.
done before.
Right. No. Okay.
Yeah, you're walking a more well-tread path than
Yeah.
you ought to be, because I'd rather read a bad Bam poem that I could pick out of a lineup. Bam wrote this. That's over just a boilerplate generic poem that obviously that was a fine poem. It worked. It was like the themes were consistent, the rhyme scheme was consistent. None of the symbols were wonky. It worked. However, it feels like it was very almost copy and paste.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
it's
get-
not meant to be like
No.
harsh criticism. It's just so
No, I get what you're
moving
saying.
forward
Yeah.
we
No,
can.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I want to improve on my skills and really hone
that's
them
why
in.
we're doing this.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I think I could use some loosening up when I'm doing it because I'm just
Yeah.
trying to do like a cliche that the whole world will think is a real good poem. So I think it's okay to get a little weird, you know. Like,
Yeah, and that's the
absolutely.
thing
really
with
kinda
poems.
get-
It doesn't have to be this super meaningful thing every time.
Mhm.
yeah. Some of my favorite poems I've ever written were in jest. They were goofy,
Yeah.
Right.
funny poems.
It's a little different.
Billy Collins, who I mentioned last episode, my favorite poem ever. We covered it on
Yes,
Poetry
we did,
Potluck.
episode 1.
Fires by Billy Collins, which is about Smokey the Bear going into the woods
Yeah,
and setting
Boom was
fires.
talking about
Yep.
this the other day.
Or Flames by Billy Collins, my apologies. And it's my favorite poem for that reason. It's so funny, the juxtaposition of Smokey the Bear and fires. The use of bears as they are in nature, where they're menacing and they're imposing. They're bears, they're grizzly bears, they're tough and they're mean. And they're looking out, or they're looking to hurt you, versus like the infantilized bear, the teddy bear, the soft, cuddly. Look, he's
Right.
wearing overalls or jeans. He's wearing a little hat. How could he
Yeah.
hurt you? It's fun and it's clever, and I can almost guarantee that no one has ever written a poem like that other than Billy Collins. I could pick it out of a lineup as a Billy Collins poem.
Right.
I want you, and this is your second poem, so I totally understand, to find your voice. By the end of this series, that's what I'd like to see out of you.
Challenge accepted. I'm down.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I want to read a poem where, good or bad, it's a BAM poem above all else.
Bam poems sound good to me. That sounds like it'd be killer.
And one more thing. Feel free when doing your rhyme scheme, because this format is marginally different than the typical format, where none of these poems, unless we make some weird like Squarespace website, will be read physically by anyone. They'll be audibly heard by everyone. So it really loosens up what you can do with rhyme scheme.
Right.
I know you're a big fan of rap. They play with this quite a bit with slant rhymes, where it may not rhyme in its entirety if you read it and took it at face value. However, when
Say it a
spoken
certain way.
aloud, the inflection can make it rhyme. That's something I'd like to see you play with moving forward.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want you to force it in if
No, I
if
get
it's
what
not
you're saying.
there.
Yeah.
But I think it's something you could play with, and I feel like it's something that is a strength of yours.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. You're a creative person. It's just breaking out of what you think poetry needs to be
Uh-huh.
and making it
Just really branch
what
out into-
how BAM sees poetry.
Okay.
Or how you conceptualize yourself. That's the way I'd like to see you.
Yeah, because it kind of felt somewhat of like not being in a box while writing these, but like just trying to come up with inspiration. I'm like thinking, how does a poem sound? Like, how should I write this poem?
Exactly.
sound?
Yep.
And like I think that really showed when I read them and what came out. But I mean, I think it's good first couple poems. You know,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
For first
And
two
then-
goes of writing a poem.
Right, but
that's-
You're
I
doing
did feel-
terrific. Yeah.
Did feel that kind of enclosement on trying to figure out what a poem is, but like I think I should go the way you said and just trying to figure out what poetry is to me, what I think a good
Yeah.
poem's gonna sound like, and not trying to worry about the schemes and the rhymes and all that different things. So.
Yep.
The goal of
That's
this
where you're
series
gonna
is
find something.
creativity first, quality last.
Right.
Because good poems arise from creativity above all else. Creativity and repetition.
Right.
And these are things, one you have in spades and the other one you don't have at all. And I'm excited to see you utilize the other one more and gain more of the second one.
Heck yeah, I look forward to looking more into that.
Boom.
All right.
Before we go, how do you see your creative process in this? To bring you a little further into the conversation, to rope my good friend Boom in.
Yeah. That's a good question, because like BAM, I have written 2 poems now of my own accord. So I'm really in the same boat here. I've read more poetry than BAM has, but that doesn't automatically mean I know more about writing poetry than BAM does. And I guess I'm finding similar things. The more I try to find an outline that I like, the less I'm able to fit anything I want to say into it. It's been, like we mentioned in the last episode, I've had to just kind of stop thinking about writing something and just, as if I were drawing. When I used to draw, I could never start with a picture in my head. It had to be just start with a line, and then draw a couple other lines, and then then you're getting into a picture, and that's kind of how this is starting to be. I guess that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Just like when I'm doodling in a sketchbook. It all starts with a line, draw a few more, and it starts to look a little bit better and come together, and then you can start trying to tailor it into being what you want.
Have you thought about making an illustration and writing a poem about it? Has that ever come to mind?
No, but that would be a really interesting thing to do. I think that might be a cool thing to do for one of these episodes, and that might be a way that I develop a style here.
See, I've done something similar to that, where
So book rookie here.
take your t-
What was it? So write a poem about what?
an illustration, like a
Illustration,
like
like
like art. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see.
That's
Does art.
Let me see, because I wrote one on this little sketch by Pablo Picasso, if it'll load. Come on now, poetry. I want to write it. Okay, so here's this little sketch. It's of Don Quixote
Mhm. Yeah,
and
I'm very familiar.
and Sancho Panza. And I wrote a little poem about it where it goes like this. The title is Pablo Picasso's sketch of Don Quixote and Sancho Panza. Don and Sancho stand out in stark black and white. The steeds they mount appear scratched and scrawled, almost in a huff. A rush job, maybe. I still cherish it. Look at how they stare off at the windmills. Don Quixote is ready to strike. God bless him. So, I took the limited amount of imagery that's given to me. Like, if either of you are familiar with Don Quixote, which is something we'll have to cover on the podcast at some point, it's one of those must reads for like literature classes at some juncture, where he's this guy who's been painted in recent years as this guy who's overcoming adversity and just wants to live his own way. He's eccentric, but really he was crazy. And he loved these romance novels where he envisioned himself as a knight in chivalrous honor, protecting a maid and defeating enemies. And it was a spoof of those sorts of novels. And one of the things he does, which is illustrated in this, with Sancho, who's this idiot who he gets to be his lackey, for lack of a better term, there's windmills that he mistakes as, I believe, dragons. I forget whether it was dragons or some other sort of mystical creature. But he's like, dude, we gotta fight those dragons. We gotta fight those dragons. And he sees them on this field. They're at a distance. That's what's being portrayed in that little sketch. They're overseeing it. And then eventually they charge it and get hurt severely by the windmills. Because of course they do. And I love it. I love that sketch. I love that idea. I enjoy Don Quixote as a concept. And I wanted to write about it the moment I saw it. And I saw fit to write about that sketch. I think it'd be even cooler if one of you guys... this is not for me, because I am not good with my hands. All of my art looks like a child made it. But in your metacognition of connecting symbols to the written word and back, if you could make something, tangibly draw it, and then write about it, I feel like that could be a source of inspiration.
I think that is absolutely true. That's something I'm very excited to get going with now.
I don't think I could do that. I'm terrible at drawing. I wouldn't even really know. I don't think what I'd be drawing. I think if you were to draw something, I think I could write about what you drew. But I don't think I could.
I guess that could kind of be
something,
interesting
yeah.
too.
Right, give my take on it.
Both take the same scribble or drawing and write a poem based on it,
Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
then bring that here. That could be something.
I'd be more than
worth
happy to
doing.
do that.
Yeah.
I'd gladly do that. I could.
Okay.
Now
yeah.
is it going to be like a
We'll break
picture?
it. I mean, it
Or
could
some
just be
random
anything.
doodle, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it could be abstract.
Most of
Yeah.
what I do is abstract, so that's probably what we'll be working
Exactly. I think that could be a little more interesting.
on. There's
Yeah,
a
that'd
lot
be cool.
more to
Exactly.
draw from that.
I'm happy to write a haiku about a vase, but if it's just a haiku about a flower vase, I feel like we'd get 3 very similar poems. But if it's a little more abstract, where what it is isn't necessarily obvious at first glance, I think
I-
that...
Yeah, I think that was even something like I don't know if it's like if it's been done before. Just like a bunch of just like kind of just like etch the paper like crazy, like put a whole bunch of randoms down,
That's
and then
a-
write about what you see. Is that what
well,
we're
that's
talking about? Or
that's an interesting thing to bring up, Bam. That's a lot of what I used to do. I guess I used to call it like drawing my feelings.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, I just take my sketchbook. I wouldn't even look at the paper, and just start scribbling, and drawing, and then looking at it. And I mean, sometimes it was some interesting stuff. It's hard to say whether that was actually a physical representation of what I was feeling, but I mean, it could be interesting to write about.
Well, it's like a Rorschach. It's such a hard word. RORSACH test. Rorschach test. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I hate it. It's a last name. It's
Two
not meant
people
to
can
be.
see
Yeah,
different
exactly.
things depending on
Yeah.
whether you're looking at the black part or the white part of the painting.
Exactly, and it's
Okay.
meant to be abstract so that you're getting
Mhm.
deeper cognition in terms of things that are residing back in their mind rather than at a glance. It's not just the silhouette of something, or if it is, could be interpreted two different ways. And that could be something that you could get out of that free drawing in terms of
Yeah.
drawing your feelings. You may not have drawn it like that, but it's something that you took from it because, art is subjective and you saw it in such a way. And I think it's still valuable nonetheless.
Mm-hmm. Heck yeah. Well, look at that.
Exactly.
Okay, well, believe it or not, we still have one to go here on this episode. So it is my turn. This poem is titled Love Herself. Talent beyond measure, beauty incarnate, my love for her is absolute. Perfection in my eyes, comfort and happiness, if only I could show her how charming she is so that she might love herself as I do. And that one gets a little interesting there at the end as I read aloud with the way it sounds. But there's a sappy poem from Boom.
That's nice. I'm glad you wrote that. I hope your girlfriend listens to this.
Yeah, that touched my heart a little bit. That was good.
I'm kind of tearing up.
Yeah.
That's not even an exaggeration. It's not the most. It feels earnest. I'm glad you didn't bury it in minutia, because I have this problem where, like when I was writing that book for my ex, I buried some of my feelings in flowery words to try and impress her and sound all pompous. You were very direct, and I think there's something incredibly valuable in that.
Mhm.
And as we were talking about earlier with my poem Bliss, like breaking down those barriers in terms of preconceptions is incredibly useful, and using direct language like that could be a part of that. That's I'm glad that you're so forthcoming about your emotions, at the very least on the podcast. Yeah, man, how do you feel about it?
No, I really like that. I think it was deep, came from a place that you really care about, so I think it really showed in that. And yeah, like that's, I don't think I could get like real personal in my step with writing these. I think I would shy away from that almost, not
Yeah.
even really knowing, and kind of just like, but whatever. It's kind of cool. You can just kind of put that in there and write it and talk about it. But yeah, no, I dig it, man. It's good.
The next time you feel like an intense emotion, try writing about it. So I've used that as fuel for many a poem, and I think it's incredibly useful.
Okay. So when I'm like just feeling,
Yeah,
super
instead of
flustered.
writing your angry letter and burning it, like write an angry poem
And keep it.
and keep it
And
and bring it
keep it.
and
here.
bring it to
Yeah,
homemade
yeah, bring
poetry.
it. Exactly. Yeah, bring it home. I had an idea for next week, or week, whenever these
Our
come out.
loose weeks here.
Exactly, the fictional week. What if the three of us, for next episode, all wrote little haikus? Because I think that could be interesting when Bam has the problem of being forced into his conception of what poetry is and what it isn't.
Mm.
And Boom has problems in terms of seeing himself as an artist in terms of poetry. And I simply have not used the medium as much as I'd like to. I think we'd all gain a little bit from it. Is that something we could do for next time?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can more into that. And it's
All
called
right.
it's called a what?
Haiku.
A haiku. It's
Haiku.
spelled Haiku.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into those a little bit more and
Yeah.
see what I can get together.
Fantastic. And if all of you at home would like to write your own haikus,
Share them in the
Send 'em in.
comments.
Send 'em in.
please. You could even be on the podcast. The bar is in the floor. The amount of times we've been rejected for the podcast is innumerable, which is fine. I'm not,
It's fine by me.
I'm
Whatever.
not bitter at all. Any closing thoughts, anybody?
I think like some solid poetry. I think it was like really honestly good. I don't like read much of like into poetry, but like I shocked myself even, and then hearing your guys, that was really kind of like it seemed almost. I don't know what professional poetry sounds like, but that all sounded like super professional. It
That's
was
that's an interesting point to make, the professional poetry point, because I feel like depending on who you are and and what you're reading, the level of professionalism in a poem, or or who wrote the poem isn't of much
Significance.
significance.
Now, is
Yeah,
it
that's
considered
the
like a
word.
professional poem? Is it like once you like make a poem book? Now I've learned what that is.
that is the bar. You write a poem book,
You're a
professional
pro.
poet.
Exactly. Be published. That's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
All right, cool.
And it's a bit of an oxymoron because you're a poet.
No,
You're a poet. I'm a poet.
Exactly.
And everyone at home, if you take your time and write a haiku for next week, you'll be a poet. And on that note, thank you again, Bam,
Well, thank you guys
for bearing your soul
We did it again.
on the internet. And please join us next week for Haiku Week. I'm absolutely ecstatic to see what my friends come up with. I'm in Spice.
And I'm Boom, and you've been poetry.